Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our next chapter in the book. And our next chapter is Miri. That's the author. Okay, so remember, Koku got away and she found Annie and Jack. She wanted to find you, the Countess said out of breath. After you left, she screeched at the Bickersons. She even shook her little fist, so they ordered her off the boat too. Now the poor couple is sitting there all alone. Oh, thank you, Koku, for sticking up for us, said Annie. I can see you like Koku and that she likes you, said the Countess. Therefore, I have a favor to ask you. Could you care for her this afternoon? I must take a ferry down river to see a sick friend and cannot take Koku. My friend is afraid of creatures from the wild. Of course we'll take care of her, said Annie. Annie, you know we have a mission, right? Jack said under his breath. Their job was to find a secret of greatness, not to babysit a baboon. Don't worry, Koku won't get in the way, Annie said to Jack. She looked at the Countess. We'd love to. Thank you very much. I trust you to be wonderful caretakers, said the Countess. She reached into her purse, brought out a chunk of brown bread, and gave it to Jack. Please give her bits of this when she is hungry or sad. I won't be back until nightfall, where we can rendezvous then. Rendezvous? Said Annie. Yes, meet up with each other, said the Countess. Oh, how about Selena's boat? Said Jack. Good, good. You two are angels who dropped from heaven. Thank you so very much, said the Countess. Be good, Koku, and she hurried down the riverbank to catch the ferry. Go on, said Koku, looking after the Countess. Don't be sad, baby, said Annie, sitting back on a rock. Your mom won't be gone long. Oh, the baboon said. She settled into Annie's lap, and Annie kissed her head. Would Koku like a snack? Jack asked. He broke off a piece of bread and gave it to her. He put the rest in his pouch. Koku held the bread with her two tiny hands. She chewed thoughtfully, looking from Jack to Annie with her bright eyes. She uttered funny little noises between bites. Suddenly she screeched and pointed upriver. Jack and Annie turned to look. Florence had left Charles and Selena's boat carrying a small bag. She was walking down the riverbank toward Mufasa. Now's our chance, said Jack. Let's go, said Annie, holding Koku. She hurried with Jack to Florence and the guide. I'd like to explore the Valley of the Queens, Florence was saying to herself as Janny and Jack approached. Hi there, said Annie. Florence turned around. She looked startled. Oh, hello, she said. Koku let out another screech. We're babysitting Koku, Annie explained. Florence nodded. Jack could tell she didn't really want to talk to them. Are you going to take more notes this afternoon? Annie asked. Yes, I am, Florence answered. You're just like Jack, said Annie. He loves to write in his notebook, too. Oh, how nice, said Florence. Jack was embarrassed. Florence's mind was clearly on other things. She nodded politely and then turned back to the guide. Mufasa, we must be off. Mufasa helped Florence into the rowboat and took his position. As the guide picked up his oars, Florence glanced back at Jack, Annie, and Koku, who were all standing on the bank staring at her. Florence sighed. Do you need a ride to the west shore? She said. Yes, please. Then come, Annie said. You're welcome to join us. Thanks. Jack didn't say anything. He didn't feel welcome at all. Jack and Annie climbed in with Koku and sat behind Florence. Mufasa used his oars to push the boat off the riverbank. As he began rowing across the Nile, the white-bearded guide sang the same peaceful song he sung before. Annie gave Jack a thumbs up. Not really, Jack thought. Florence was sitting with her back to them now, writing in her notebook. How could they ever get her to pay attention to them? Look up, Valley of the Queens, Annie whispered to him. Jack took the handbook out of the pouch on his belt. Then he and Annie silently read. About 3,000 years ago, the wives of the pharaohs were buried in the Valley of the Queens, near the Valley of the Kings. The tombs were cut out of limestone cliffs. Excuse me, Miss Nightingale, Annie said. Have you ever been to the Valley of the Queens? Without looking back, Florence shook her head. We find it fascinating, said Annie. She nudged Jack, letting him know it was his turn to speak. Did you know that the wives of the pharaohs were buried there about 3,000 years ago? Jack said. I believe their tombs were cut out of the limestone cliffs. Florence barely nodded. She didn't say a word or look back at them. Before Jack and Annie could think of another way to get her attention, the rowboat arrived on the western shore. And so our next chapter is the Valley of the Queens. So I will be seeing you all later tomorrow in a Zoom meeting. I hope very, very much. And so have a good day.